Growing up, the family home had many motor racing books, and unsurprisingly, they focused on the heroes of my father's childhood. Jim Clark, Jackie Stewart, two of the Scottish legends. So much so, my father had an autograph of Jim when he raced in the REC Rally. And what we have here is the car that more than any other cemented the legend that is Jim Clark.
In those days, we had 5 mechanics looking after 3 cars.
Mechanics covered the whole of the car, didn't specialise in anything.
We had to do practically everything.
We worked all-nighters at all the circuits.
Working for Chapman, you were conditioned that you had to win.
Number 4, Jim Clark, still showing real championship form.
Well, it was revolutionary.
Oh, in its day, it was head and shoulders above the opposition.
There hadn't been a monocoque car built like that before.
Through the history of Formula One, there's always been cars that have been game changers. The Lotus 25 was one of those. Prior to this car, everything was made out of tubular frame. Colin Chapman realised by using an aluminium monocoque, he was able to use that as a stress member of the car, also putting the fuel cells either side of the driver. Not good for the driver, but certainly good for packaging. The car was a lot smaller, more nimble, a lot faster.
Jim, well, everybody's asked this.
One of the best.
Oh, you could give him a shopping trolley and he'd be able to drive it quickly.
I was introduced to Fangio, and he said to me, in his opinion, Jimmy was the greatest driver ever. And that coming from Fangio is something else.
All clear, go for start.
Yes, please.
The engine's actually quite smooth, isn't it, for such an old engine? Right, here we go.
Some 300,000 spectators watch the race at the centre of attraction, the green and yellow line Lotus of Britain's Jim Clark.
Jim Clark's Lotus Climax, number 4, out in front.
I've forgotten how noisy they were.
Incredible.
You've got to realise the cars in that period were underpowered, and you couldn't scrub the speed off. If you did, the car virtually stopped. So you had to drive it with a very, very light touch and keep the momentum going, and he was an expert at this.
He used less rubber, less brake pads, and he used less fuel to win a race.
Nice to see another Scotsman in it.
Silverstone in 1965, Jimmy was coming through Woodcote Corner with the engine off, and we're thinking, what's happening? And this went on lap after lap, and after the race we're saying, well, what happened? What's going on? He said, well, the oil pressure was dropping through the fast right-hander at Woodcote. So to save the engine, I was knocking it off and coasting through. And yet he still won the race.
Spa in 1963, he won by nearly 5 minutes in the rain. Now you know why I say he's the greatest driver.
Here he comes.
Woo! Man, that is fantastic. Scares the life out of me, but it is fantastic. I didn't imagine I could be so excited. I don't think I've ever whooped in a car before in Hanger Straight, even when I won here. Because I'm going through Stowe, and you know the great images you have of him driving, and it was all very much like this. And it makes sense now, because that's the feedback that's in the car. You know, in a modern car, there's so much load through the steering that you can't have those sorts of movements. But because you don't have the aerodynamic load, you have to be quite, you know, sharp with the steering.
You're driving it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you're living it, you know? This has been a fantastic day. It's been a real treat. And Bob, I have to thank you very much.
Not just me.
All of the team
Yes.
for sharing the experiences from that period. And you know, it was a legendary period. You're all legends. This car's continuing the legend beyond all of our journeys on this earth, and it's been a real privilege to drive it, so
Right.
thank you.
And yeah, thank you for good job.
For a moment, I almost felt like Jim Clark.